I'm standing here in the ruins of the old Coventry Cathedral on this, the second anniversary of the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And it's such a poignant place to stand and remember why that's such an important treaty and why we so much want our own government to sign it on our behalf. Here in November 1940, this was a sea of flame as the whole of the centre of the city of Coventry experienced an 11-hour air raid in which some 20,000 houses and homes were damaged or destroyed. Between 500 and 600 people lost their lives, and the beautiful cathedral in which I'm standing went up in smoke. The next morning, my predecessor as leader of this cathedral community, Provost Richard Howard, walked into the ruins, and as he looked around, he said, "It seemed to me that we had shared in the crucifixion of Christ. But as I realized that, it came to me in an instant that just as we had shared in his crucifixion, so we would also share in Christ's resurrection. The cathedral would rise again." In the days immediately following the end of the Second World War, people from the city and cathedral and the factories of Coventry reached out to join with those who had experienced destruction in their communities on the other side of the hostilities. A party went from here to Kiel in northern Germany in January 1947, taking one of the crosses made of nails from the cathedral roof that had fallen during the burning, as a sign of Christ's presence in the midst of destruction, whoever we are, whatever our circumstances. Over the years that followed, many more missions of peace were established with places like Hamburg, Berlin, and of course very famously Dresden. Eventually, some of these centres were gathered together in the worldwide community of the Cross of Nails, which now has three priorities: healing the wounds of history, learning to live with difference and to celebrate diversity, and building a culture of justice and peace. These three guiding principles still hold us today, both here and across the world, in our work towards reconciliation. People have lots of different ways of describing reconciliation and lots of different ways of defining it. My personal preference is this: journeying from a fractured past towards a shared future. Journeying from a fractured past towards a shared future. That's a journey which is never complete, but we can always start it. Now, sometimes we find ourselves in positions of great trial and adversity. One such is taking place at the moment in Ukraine and Russia. People have many different views as to how people of faith should engage in such a conflict, even as those who are victims of an aggressor. The truth is that here in the cathedral, there was not a message to withdraw from violence at that time. It was seen as a just war, a war in which the aggressor needed to be halted in their advance. But nuclear weapons can never find a justification, even if you adhere to any sort of just warfare theory, and of course not if you're a pacifist. Nuclear weapons do not allow for that shared future. If we believe that we are called to journey from a fractured past towards a shared future, we can in no way contemplate the use of nuclear weapons. They are not a defensive weapon, they are an aggressive weapon. There is no moral, logical, or theological justification for the use of nuclear weapons, and therefore there is no moral, logical, or theological justification for the possession of nuclear weapons. Look around you here in Coventry and see the impact of violent and armed aggression. For the last 80 years, we have committed ourselves to finding a way of ridding the world of violent means of resolving conflict. wherever we stand on the spectrum around how that should best be done, nuclear weapons belong nowhere within it. This work is something which we believe only God can help us achieve. Back in 1947 in Kiel, Provost Howard called for the establishment of a German-English friendship bond. But he said we can only seek to overcome these tendencies towards conflict with the help of God. We need God's help to make hope flourish and to make hope thrive. Will you join with us and with all those across the world, and especially those today as we think of the people working in Pax Christi, to pray for a world free of violence, a world in which all are able to flourish, sisters and brothers, children of God. Thank you for sharing in these few minutes as we pause to reflect here on this third Sunday of Epiphany in Coventry Cathedral.